point I want to make about this is that there's been a lot of banter about whether Robert should have been in that rally car on that day, given that the Formula One season was so close. I'd be interested to hear you, all your comments about that, and my personal opinion is let the guy do whatever he wants. I'm not a big fan of insulating Formula One drivers and making them only race in Formula One. I think that there's they're racing car drivers, and if they sign a contract saying that they can only race in Formula One, fine. But Robert obviously didn't sign that contract. His contract said that he could do that, and these things happen. You can have accidents. It happened a lot back in the 60s and the 50s and the 70s. It doesn't happen so much now, and there's obviously a risk, as Robert has now, is paying the price for. But I just, as a principle, I think that you should let these guys do their racing outside of the season, outside of the Formula One season. Race of Champions, for example, is very safe and very easy, and a lot of the Formula One drivers do the ROC, but things can happen there. You could break a leg or an arm, or anything could happen.
You can't.
No matter how safe the racing is, you need to let these guys are racing car drivers. You can't stop them doing what they want to do.
Well, you can't wrap them in cotton wool.
No.
At the end of the day. My only thing that I would say is that if you don't want your drivers to race anything other than a Formula One car, put it in their contract.
Yeah, and then you guarantee that they won't.
I mean, this bloke here, it was written in his contract that he could ski. Right? He can break any, leg, arm, neck, or whatever skiing, but it was part of his contract that Villeneuve could ski.
Yeah.
A part of Robert's contract that he could race in rally cars. He's done that. Unfortunately, for the first time ever, it's come off bad for him, and he's had a terrible accident.
Mate, I will go the other way. For those of you who love the history of Formula One, you know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the Trans-Tasman series, where they had a whole separate season, non-championship season. It was much more relaxed. They were racing very, very quick cars around circuits that probably weren't up to scratch. But you know what? I think that's great. I go the other way. I say, why don't we let them race more rather than less?
Yeah, fair
enough. All right, mate, we've had a bit of controversy in the last week or so with Alonso and this book this book that came out where it was said that he gave Ron Dennis an ultimatum back in 2007. He wanted to be the number one driver. He had information that McLaren were
Spygate
cheating. Yeah, and he went to Ron and said, I want number one.
Yep.
And he was basically blackmailing the guy.
That's exactly what
And, this to me seems, Alonso has not really confirmed or denied. He won't really talk about it since, but it does seem to me to be something that Alonso would do. And I'm not saying that in a negative way at all.
It's a Spanish blood, mate.
The guy will do anything to win in Formula One, and if he feels that he can gain some advantage over his teammate by doing that, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that it doesn't surprise me at all. Formula One's a cutthroat business, and there's been a little bit of controversy about it, mate. What's your thoughts on it?
There has been, but let's also concede that we don't know whether this is true or not. Okay, Fernando's not talking, Ron's not talking. So as far as I'm concerned, this is pure and utter speculation. For all your Alonso haters out there, of course, you'd be saying, yeah, he did it.
Use it as ammunition,
and he asked Ron to short fuel Lewis and all that sort. Fine, may have.
Yeah.
May not have. We simply don't know, and I mean, I guess there's the old where there's smoke, there's fire. Who knows? We don't know. Do I think he's an uncompromising Formula One driver?
Yes.
Has he pissed a lot of people off, a la Michael Schumacher in his prime? Yes. Do I think he would stoop so low as to do that? Not sure. He's got too much talent in his left foot to have to do those sorts of things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind he expected to go to McLaren in 2007 after being a dual world champion and coming up against a rookie. He naturally, as I think we all would, expect to be given pretty much number one status.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this kid was upping the tempo.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Alonso did chuck his toys out of the cot and go, well, hang on a minute, Uncle Ron, I thought I was your golden child.
Yeah.
I have won 2 world championships to nothing.
Yeah, and he was in an unhappy environment at the time. He wasn't happy, so he was probably trying to get whatever he could to make it better for himself.
But unfortunately for Fernando, is that young Lewis is a McLaren prodigy from when he was a little boy, and they weren't going to let their kid get screwed over by Alonso, dual world champion or not. So I don't know. But it's grist for the mill as far as I'm concerned. It makes interesting reading. It does. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. But I'd like to think that Fernando has enough talent anyway to not resort to those sorts of things. Send us your thoughts on that. I'm sure we'll get some interesting comments.
Yeah, I think these things tend to come out years later. You know, Formula One, it seems also nice and friendly and clean during the current season. But then, 5-10 years later, you hear these stories and you realise that Formula One...
It's a dirty business.
It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and people will sell their grandmothers to get ahead. That's just the way things go.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah, me too, mate. All right, let's talk a little bit about Pirelli. The drivers have been running around on these Pirelli tyres, and they're obviously quite a bit different to Bridgestone. Yep. A lot of people are saying that it's giving much more certainty on the front end, a lot more front-end grip, but you're also getting different tyre wear and degradation, and the drop-off is apparently quite dramatic, which they're hoping obviously will spice up the racing. I just hope we have compounds that suit circuits, that we don't have ridiculous compounds that sort of artificially spice up the racing. I'd like to have a tyre that does well for, let's say, between 5 and 20 laps, and then after that it might drop off after, let's say, 5 laps. But I think the compounds are looking pretty good, Max, from what I've read.
It's interesting. I believe with the current iteration of compounds that we're going to see plenty more pit stops this season, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think gone are the days of, or potentially, gone are the days of having a single stop on the Pirellis again in their current iteration. I'm sure they'll be developed during the season, but it stands to reason that I can see definitely some 3-stop races with the amount of degradation that we're currently experiencing. I think it will reward drivers that are easy on their rears, a la Jenson Button, for example. But I haven't read a good comment yet, or a positive comment from any driver that said the tyres are great, we love them. They're fantastic, you can push them, and they give you a lot of feedback.
Well, we had Schumacher saying he preferred them, obviously, to the Bridgestone because he was getting more front-end grip.
And Michael had no input on the Bridgestone tyres for the first time in his post-Ferrari career, I guess. Whereas Ferrari were very, very closely with Bridgestone, both when Bridgestone was a sole tyre supplier and also in their war with Michelin. Michael hasn't had that input. Didn't have that input with Bridgestone, and I guess for him it's levelling the playing field somewhat this year, where everyone's starting on brand new Pirellis. So I'm hoping for Michael that does give him a little bit of impetus to push on over this year and next year to much better results. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. Yeah. We've had McLaren being off the pace in testing, mate, and there's a little bit of concern about their pace. We mentioned earlier about Mercedes being 1 second off the pace, according to Ross Brawn, but the McLaren's, it's a sexy looking car, mate, but that doesn't look lovely. That means nothing.
It means fuck all, is what that means.
So perhaps a little bit of concern with McLaren. They delayed, or they didn't delay, they launched later than probably what most people were expecting, and a lot of people were debating about the pros and cons of that. And I think there are pros and cons, but really the pace that the testing they've had recently hasn't been...
Nothing to write home to mummer about, mate. I think for a company with that much clout and that much firepower, 2 years in a row now,
catch-ups.
There's concern over their pace, and as watchers of our podcast will know, over the years we don't place too much credence in testing per se. But I've got to say, as we're coming towards the business end of the season,
you do get a general feeling, don't you?
You get a bit of an idea, and I'm not really happy with the feeling I'm getting from McLaren and Mercedes at the moment. Similar to Mercedes GP, I'm hoping that the updates they bring to Albert Park and the ensuing races put them right back up there in the hunt, but it's not boding very well at the moment. The balance of the car is apparently not to, in this case, Jenson Button's liking. I'm sure they will iron that out as soon as possible, but I think with the last 5 days of testing in Catalonia that McLaren really have to up the ante and almost put on an Albert Park spec aero package to see how it goes, because there's a lot to be concerned about.
Well, while we're talking about McLaren, reading that Lewis Hamilton's shopping around for a new manager, and I know I'm available. Max, are you available?
I'm available, Pep. Yeah, for most of the season.
Yeah, most of the season.
I've got a few concerts to do in Abu Dhabi, but other than that, I'm pretty much available. Yeah.
Do you think Mika Hakkinen might manage Lewis Hamilton?
Well,
That'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it?
Mika's got his own sports driver management company, and as he's come out in the press and said, "Hey, Lewis, I'm here. If you need me, happy to help."
So let me just say now, Lewis, I'm here. If you need to speak to me, send me a message. No problems.
Happy to help.
Happy to help.
And we'll do it for half the price that Mika's going to charge you, mate, as well.
Exactly.
I'll do it for a case of VB and, I don't know, 30 grand. There you go.
Is it a case of VB just one case or one case per race?
Per race.
Per race.
Oh yeah, let's not be silly here.
And all expenses paid, for all the Grand Prix as well, of course. Goes without saying.
Oh, yeah.
You need to be on the pit wall. You can't manage the guy if you're not on the pit wall.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to be like his father, standing behind him and just nodding or going.
Standing behind the car.
That's worth 30 grand just there. So look, I wouldn't be surprised if Hakkinen manages him. Do I think it will happen? No. Do I think the decision has already been made as to who Lewis is going to get to manage him? Yes. But I thought it was lovely for Mika to turn around and say, "Hey, I'm available," which goes to tell me he's not going to manage him because Lewis hasn't called.
Right, okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So we shall see.
Mate, 3 weeks to go. We've just ran through all the things on our list here, and I suppose just to finish off this video, to say that how pumped I am, and I know you are, mate, of this season starting. The winter has been long as usual, longer than usual with Bahrain going missing.
Yeah.
And I'm just so excited to see this season start, mate. You and I have been quite busy lately. We haven't been doing as many podcasts as what we would like.
No.
But it's not to say that we haven't been really pumped up, mate, for this season. I'm really, really excited. And we're still not sure whether we're going to go to Albert Park. We're probably not at this stage.
Unfortunately.
But there's still a small chance that we might try and get there, mate. Either way, that just means that we get the whole weekend, we get coverage all weekend. Saturday we get to park ourselves in front of the TV, drink a few quiet BBs and watch the thing
again
in all its high-def glory, mate.
Yes, indeed. It's been a very long off season. I guess I'm stating the blatantly obvious, but we have a lot to look forward to this season, especially for the 3 new teams that were on the grid last year for the first time. They've had a year now to bed themselves down, so I'm expecting bigger things from Lotus, I guess, or Team Lotus, or whatever you want to call them.
Green Lotus.
Green Lotus.
That's what I call them.
From Green Lotus. Yeah. They won't be running with Kurz this year initially. Maybe that'll come towards the latter part of the year, but I'm expecting good things from Lotus. The T128, from what Heikki and Truly are saying, is a vastly superior car to last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the 3 new teams come up with this year for sure. We've got the reintroduction of Kurz, of course, movable rear wings, which is interesting.
Some new drivers as well.
Some new drivers, that's right.
New Grand Prix, India.
Another couple of rookies. We've got India. We've got Narain Karthikeyan coming back onto the grid as well. Who'd have thunk it? But it's boding well for a very interesting season, and as ever, I hope you all enjoy it. And we'll be filming again before the pre-season.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then we'll be getting into the full swing of things on a weekly basis as the Grand Prix, or on a fortnightly basis as the Grand Prix circus rolls around. And I know I speak for Pep. We simply cannot wait.
Oh, I'm so pumped, mate. All right, guys, leave us your comments. We're really interested to hear what you've got to say about all the things that we talked about. We really love your comments, and we love replying to them and having those, those threads of conversation going on.
It's great.
So we'll see you soon for the next video.
All right, guys, catch you.
Bye.
Bye.